Great, let's prepare ourselves. If you put your hand over your eyes, I open my eyes to see the spiritual truth today. And now your hand over your ears, I open my ears to hear the spiritual truth today. And now over your heart, just extend out your arms. I open my heart to receive the spiritual truth today. The spiritual truth that I'm working with is that your good is with you all the time. Your good is with you all the time. Now, I could have said your God is with you all of the time, and both would have been true. I decided to use this spiritual principle that your good is with you all the time, because sometimes I think we get this mixed up. I think we have God and good as separate. God and good are not separate at all. Emma Curtis Hopkins, who is Ernest Holmes, one of his greatest influencers, wrote a book called Scientific Mental Christian Practices. And in that book, she says God and good are the same. You know, God is Jehovah Jireh. God is manna from heaven. God is sight for the blind. God is good wine for the wedding. God is your marriage turned around. God is your health. God is courage to walk into a room full of strangers, people who look absolutely nothing like you, and know you are totally welcome there. Your good is around you all of the time. To get today's spiritual principle at a deep enough level, though, we've got to remind ourselves of some basic stuff. And today's going to be going back to basics. Because here's the thing, there is so much information about metaphysics out there these days that is connected with very exciting science. I'm a big fan of Joe Dispenza, and he's bringing us new evidence about how our mind can transform our lives, our health, our futures. But sometimes for me, I have to go back to the basics. I have to go back to what Ernest Holmes teaches us in our life. And today's going to be one of those days for me. See, we have to remind ourselves that God is not made in the image and likeness of our earthly father. Sometimes when we say we're made in the image and likeness of God, we kind of reverse that and think that God is made in the image and likeness of us. And some of us have had earthly fathers that were sometimey, didn't we? Sometimes they were nice, and sometimes not so nice to us. Sometimes they wanted to give us everything, and sometimes not so much. Well, that's not what God is. God is not a sometimey God that some days gives you things and other days gets caught up in what I call the family bureaucracy. See, God never gets caught up in your family bureaucracy. You know that thing that this is the way we did it. We did it this way. This is how we do it. In my family, my brother was sent to college, and the girls, my sister and I, were supposed to go out and find a man. Well, that presented a problem for me. An issue for me, in my life. See, God knows who we are, and is not going to give some of us. See, God didn't build a little box for us to get into and stay in that box. God says, come with me. Come with me in a spirit of harmony and peace and joy and success, and let's build a big box with lots of doors on it, because how you are today may not be how you are tomorrow. And even with a big box in which you can move around, you may have to open the door and walk out and build a whole new box for you. God cares who you are, who you individually are in your life. Most of us have to put this childish notion of God into a new perspective. That notion of God that we got through our culture, through our childhood, through our religion, through our family. We've got to widen that out and put it in a much bigger perspective. Ernest Holmes, one of the most favorite thing that he ever said for me is that God is not a person, but God is personal. And I like that. And the reason I like it is because here in metaphysics, we can get heady. It can be all about the head. But here he's saying God is not a person, but God is personal to us in our lives. See, God is an energy. and you say what your good is from that energy. You pull it from unformed substance into form in your life. And what's good for me may not be good for everybody. And what's good for you may not be good for me. Most of you know our primary volunteer here, Rosemary Mayfield. She's a birder. She loves to get her little binoculars and go and watch birds. I can't imagine anything more boring in my life than going out and sitting out waiting for a bird to fly out and decide what it is. I just can't even imagine it. But she loves it. She goes on trips with other birds. There's a group of birds, everybody a bird. No, I can't do that. But I can't imagine getting Rosemary out on a golf course either. See, what's good for me may not be good for you, and may not be good for me. See, your God is always with you. And our job is to believe it and to act from it. Well, I'm anchored today. You know, I go back to Ernest Holmes a lot because he's really changed. His philosophy has changed my life. And in his essay of What We Believe, he says this: we believe in the eternal goodness, the eternal loving kindness, and the eternal loving givingness of life to all. We believe in the eternal goodness, the eternal loving kindness, and the eternal givingness of life to all. And let me just say that eternal means there's no end to it. And sometimes you and I think that we really have blown it. We've blown what God's given us, our blessings. We've blown them so much that God's not going to give us any more blessings. Your givingness is eternal, no matter what you've done, no matter how many times you've screwed it up. There's more for you. There's more givingness for you out there. See, if we got up every single morning and pretended this was true, if we got up every single morning and pretended this was true, that we took a pledge, today I'm going to act from loving kindness, because I know it's all around me. And I'm going to act as if everybody else is coming to me from loving kindness in the world. That goodness, eternal goodness, is everywhere. And that God wants to give me eternally all that I desire. I'm going to get up every day and I'm going to believe that. See, that's what Mary Kay McClanahan believed when she was facing what she faced. If we could do that, there would be no more war. There would be no more domestic violence. All this ridiculous name-calling at the political level would end if we could get up and believe today's spiritual principle in our life. See, when people ask me, why do you want to grow this church, Reverend George? What is it that makes you want to grow this church? It's today's spiritual principle. That's the only reason. So that I can be with a group of people who are willing to at least consider that maybe we live in a world of goodness and that it's all around us. That's enough. That's enough of a reason to want more people to come to this church and experience it. See, when you can see, and I mean see, good in the unformed substance, that's when it'll show up in your life. Did you create it? No, you didn't create it. You began to look at it in the unformed substance, and you brought it from your belief into the formed substance. You took it from the unformed substance, this good that is all around us, and you said, okay, today I want my good to show up in a relationship where loving language is spoken, not the language of put down. I'm going to take that good and get myself a career that pays well, that I jump up in the morning and I know I'm doing something that's meaningful in my life. I'm going to take that unformed substance and I'm going to take my retirement and I'm going to stop using the term fixed income, and I'm going to just know that my good and the loving givingness of God is all around me, and I get whatever it is that I need and I believe in my life. I'll have so much money, I won't have enough deposit slips to put all my money in my bank account. That's how much money I'm going to have. See? When I can take it from the unformed substance, I can have enough rest in order to enjoy that new car and that vacation. There's no end to what you can have from the unformed substance if you can see it clearly enough in your mind. What about time, Reverend Georgia? Can I get more time? Yes, it's eternal. There's no limit. It's an unlimited givingness. You say, whoa, 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 whoa. Well, I was with you there for a minute, but now I know there are 24 hours. Well, did you know you could fly before the Wright brothers and others flew? No, you didn't know that. Did you know that you could talk to Brazil in a nano instant? People you didn't even know, you could talk to them through the internet? No, you didn't know that. We don't know because we haven't seen it yet. We haven't seen it enough yet in our life. See, your eternal goodness is unformed all around you. And when we can move it to form, we can heal the planet. We need, however, a shift in consciousness. And the shift in consciousness that we need in order to make this work is that we don't have to earn it. You don't have to earn loving kindness. You don't have to earn loving givingness. It's here. Eternal goodness is here. You don't have to earn it. It's yours by right of consciousness, by right of being able to see it and experience it in your life. Well, okay, Reverend Georgia, I get what you're saying. In fact, turn to a neighbor and say, you are filled with loving kindness. Okay, Reverend Georgia, I get what you're saying. Hello, I'm here now. I get what you're saying, Reverend Georgia, but what about my ex-husband? He's not filled with loving kindness in my life. What about the perpetrators of child abuse? They're not filled with loving kindness. What about me when I went off on my kid last week? I wasn't filled with loving kindness. Yes, you were filled with loving kindness. They were filled with loving kindness. They forgot who they were. They forgot who they were. They started walking by sight and not by faith in their lives. They weren't willing to take a minute in the stillness and remind themselves of today's spiritual truth, that our goodness is all around us, that loving kindness is all around us. They were filled with it. They forgot, and they weren't willing to sit in the stillness. If there's a reason you came to church today, it's this reason: to know that when you feel like you are not in the company of loving kindness, to take a step back and remind yourself that you're filled with loving kindness, because then you have a chance of putting that out to somebody else. And whether they catch that vision or not, you know you're filled with loving kindness in your life. Well, we're a very practical church, so I like to give some practical homework here. So here are 3 steps I want us to just consider doing this week in order to increase our willingness to live from this principle. And the first one is this: ask for what you want, not for what you don't want. Oh, Reverend Georgia, I've heard about this so many times from this pulpit. I just know it. No, you don't know it. You know about it. If you knew it, you'd be just manifesting all over the place. Ask for what you want, not for what you don't want. The Bible says this. It says, knock and the door shall be opened. But here's the catch. The door is open for every knock. Not just the knocks that will be life-affirming activity for you, but every single time that you knock. See, here's what happens. Your heart tells your brain your desire. Your brain tells your hand, knock. So our work is to make sure that what is in our heart is filled with loving kindness from the start. See, it takes no more time or any more money to direct your knock on the door that will result in what you really want. Harmony, abundance, peace, deep connection with one another. That's what we really want, absolute health. But every time you worry, that is a form of knock. And so when you worry about your bills, you're knocking, and the door will be opened. When you're consumed with worry about your health, you're knocking, and the door will be opened. When you're worried about your kids making it, you're knocking, and the door will be opened. Now, we're not a stick your head in the sand group here, so if you have legitimate concerns, you need to address them. I'm talking about that useless worry that I do. And I suspect some of you do too. And every time we do that, we're knocking on the door, and the door will be opened. The second activity this week is to start looking for clues. You put out you put out what you want, you knock on the door, and you begin to look for clues because they're all over the place. The world will always give you clues. We do Prosperity Plus in this church, and week after week after week after week, people come in and report some of the unexpected income. Why? Because they put out that they want to be more prosperous, and the world's living them clues all over the place. That's true. You know, if you ever, you decide you want a red car, once you make that decision that you want a red car, every red car on the freeway now, you're going to notice it, and you're going to think, wow, I never knew there were so many red cars on the freeway. God's leaving you clues. The universe is leaving you clues. Now, our work is to put out what we want fully, not some half-baked, make-do, half-measure kind of thing. Put out what you want in the biggest way you can think to want it. The third one is to learn how to receive it, and boy, this is the toughest. This is the toughest. But practice this week. Practice putting out what you want, looking for clues, and then beginning to receive it. Ernest Holmes says, we're not trying to grab anything. We're just receiving that which God has already given us in the unformed substance that we bring into life through our thinking, through our belief system, through our ability to see it in our life. Ernest Holmes says this: begin to look to receive with calm expectancy. Calm expectancy. We're not all riled up about it. We put out what we want. We assume it's going to happen. And we receive it with calm expectancy in our life. See, so many of us have gone along so long thinking that life is trouble. There are troubles in the world. And when we think that, troubles show up in the world. Our work is to go around and do the exact opposite, thinking life is filled with goodness and being shocked when it's not. If we can begin to do that this week, we're going to make some changes in our life. The other thing we have to do in terms of receiving is pay attention to how much false modesty is going on in your life. Oh, not me. Oh, who do I think I am? Oh, am I too big for my britches now? All of those are, they're not from God. Those are childhood messages that are coming, and they're going to thwart your good. They're going to actually shove your good back. The other sorry belief we have is that if I have something, then maybe somebody else can't. If I have a new pair of shoes, then maybe somebody else can't have a new pair of shoes. We live in an infinite givingness of life. There is no shortage. There is no shortage. One of the reasons that we do this tree, and I'm so proud of us, every week, all of those leaves, since we started, every week, all of those leaves have been gone. And we've outfitted children, yes. We've outfitted children who couldn't afford uniforms, whose mom and dad couldn't afford uniforms. We've outfitted them. They're going to go to school with a uniform on now that makes them feel good about who they are. We bought them shoes, so they have shoes to go to school with. The teachers now are saying, you know, some of our kids are coming hungry. Do you think you could buy some snacks so that the teachers could have some snacks for the kids who are clearly coming here without any breakfast in the morning? So we have snacks up there. Maybe some granola bar or some, I don't know what kind of snack, but not anything you have to refrigerate. But so we have those leaves up there. That's a fabulous thing. That idea came from a coalition of Reverend Brenda and the social worker at the school, getting together and saying, we have a generous, loving congregation. How can we help? See, God gives and we block. God gives and we block. God gives and we block. To receive, I'm going to invite you to practice these three things. These three things. Ask for what you want. Look for clues. And live in calm expectation that it's going to happen in your life. Well, before I conclude, I want to tell you that today is a day in which there's going to be some givingness and loving kindness happen here right after church at 1 o'clock in 1 hour from now. Authentic Voices is going to come up and we're going to share stories. And here's what Authentic Voices is all about. It's stimulating conversation about race, about gender, about homophobia, about all kinds of different issues that you and I face in the world. It's only us telling our stories. It's telling our stories so that it might get stories going, because we believe that one story at a time will help us understand one another. Do we need legislative, systemic change? Absolutely. How is that going to happen? It's going to happen because we want it bad enough. That we're going to pull it from the unformed source into what we can see, and it will become manifest. And in order to do that, we have to understand each other better. Today's presentation is not a lecture. It's not you're bad and we're good or anything like that. It has humor in it. You can laugh at us because we're going to laugh at you. It has music in it, which stretches me to some degree. But it's a show that will, I think, touch your heart. And so at 1 o'clock it'll be here. We're going to give you a taste of it right now. Will you help me join me in welcoming Authentic Voices?
At dinner, filled with uncles and aunts and cousins from near and far, the conversation went a little something like this.
Where is he from, baby?
Uncle Sonny, he's from Switzerland. He's right here. You can ask him.
I am from Geneva.
What did he say?
Uncle Alfred, y'all speak English. I mean, he's been here for over 13 years. I mean, Uncle Baby, really.
What did you call him?
Okay, I called him Uncle Baby because he's the baby boy. I already have an Uncle Baby boy, so he's the baby. The baby.
I don't understand.
Pierre, you speak English, and so do they. Well, as in most Southern households, the men retire to one room, and the women hold down the kitchen. But I tried to go and cross the lines and go with Pierre to the men's room. But my grandfather promptly dismissed me. Now, I don't know what happened behind closed doors. It was Pierre, my uncles, my grandfather. All I know is that I spent the next 3 holidays in Geneva, and I learned French, and he never did make it into my grandmother's house.
Shout, shout, let it go out. These are the things I can do now. So come on, I'm talking to you. Come on. Shout, shout.
So again, I hope to see you back here at 1 o'clock. It's we'll have some bagels here at about 1:45 for you, so you won't starve to death. So let's take this message and the authentic voices into prayer, if you will. So knowing that the presence of God is right where we are, can't be anywhere else. Everywhere we go, God is. And so I recognize that. And I recognize it with joy in my heart. And I recognize that it is true that God is everywhere. God is within me and every single person on this planet and every single person in a house of worship everywhere this day, and those people who are not in a house of worship. God is right where all are. So I simply speak my word. I speak my word of gratitude for this community. I speak my word of gratitude for the band and the choir and the ushers and Mark doing sound and Amber doing video. I just speak my word of gratitude. I give thanks. I release this word into the law. Together we say,